What I love about painting is that you can use almost any tool, a brush, a pencil, even a trowel or a sponge. And it is my hope that this acrylic painting delights your senses. Job chapter 38, verse 29 says, "Who gives birth to the frost from the heavens?" Well, God does. And maybe that's why I so enjoy painting snow and frost. Like this little mountain church perched on a high plateau, the horse and carriage, the seat vacant. I don't know, perhaps the driver is inside the church warming up the potbelly stove. The only spot of bright color, if you look closely, is that red and green little wreath on the door, and it says, "It's Christmas." But the real showstopper in this acrylic painting is this giant sentinel of a sycamore tree with its remaining leaves covered in ice and frost. Whew. Now you might think that I painted that fine lacy mesh of frosty leaves with a tiny little paintbrush, maybe the same paintbrush I used when I did the wreath on the door, but not so. I used a little creativity and ingenuity and a bit of sponge anchored to the end of a wooden dowel taped to my pen that I could then put in my mouth. I smeared the end of the sponge with wet white paint and gently pressed it here and there against this blue background, and the result is a frosty lace of leaves. And they show up, I think, very nicely. I had outlined the mountains, so it's almost the same blue, but I gave it a little bit more of a lilac color, mixed a little bit of red in there, just a tiny little bit. Then you let it dry and dry and dry. And then after that, of course, the church, but again, this magnificent tree. First I drew it, obviously, and then I began painting those brown branches and the trunk, and I had to study actual bark from a sycamore tree to get it right. And then, of course, let that dry and dry and dry a little more. The shadow of that tree was not easy to paint. You have to study shadows from nature. You have to go out and look at how the branches of trees actually leave shadows on the ground, shading. And so after I studied shadows for a long time, especially how they bend over a snowdrift, then I was brave enough to paint it. My favorite part of the shadows was when I painted the shadow dropping over the snowdrift. I painted a little bit of cool polar ice color. It's like a turquoisey color, a little bit of mixture of green and blue to give it that icy, frigid look. You always have to have a contrast color in order to make a brighter color pop. And so that's what I've done with this. I think the tree really pops off the page. The lights in the church, the empty carriage, the horse, and the wreath are the lively things, the alive subjects in this painting. And somebody's been walking. And it shows another sign of light, if you can see the little footprints there. Somebody's been walking in that snow. Those are the kinds of discoveries in a painting that delight you. So it's always good to just sit in front of a painting for a long time and find out all the surprises that you never knew were there. 1 Peter chapter 4 says that each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace. Be fervent in spirit and serve the Lord. And I paint because I have received that gift, and I am a faithful steward of it so that I can serve others and serve the Lord and serve you.